Never had a beef patty that good in my life. Never had a beef patty that good in my life.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Soul Food. I am so happy you are here and I'm so excited to share the recipe we got going today. We are making a Jamaican style beef patty. Yes, we are filling our patty with a delicious savory ground beef mixture, and we're gonna add a little something different. We're gonna put some fried sweet plantains in there. What? Along with some oozy goozy mozzarella cheese. Oh yes, I'm so excited to share this recipe with you all. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe to the channel, and of course, let me know what you think. All right, let's go. To make these delicious, flaky, crispy, savory beef patties, you're going to want to start with a large bowl and add 3 cups of flour. We are making the crust for our beef patties. Super simple dough that we're doing here. So to my 3 cups of flour, I went ahead and added 2 teaspoons of ground turmeric, and I added 2 teaspoons of a Jamaican curry blend. You'll see it here. I got this at Walmart, and it's super delicious, super flavorful curry powder. And the curry powder and the turmeric is actually what's going to give us that beautiful yellow, golden yellow patty dough crust that is so characteristic of beef patties. So I went ahead with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and then I added 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. I'm using my fork to distribute all those spices and flour evenly. To the flour, you're going to want to go ahead with 1 stick of very, very cold butter. And you can see here with the butter, I cut it into cubes, into very small cubes, and I'm going to go ahead and disperse the pieces of butter all throughout the flour. And the reason why I cut it into these cubes like this is just to make it easier. As you can see here, you're going to want to use a fork and press the butter into the flour. Do this for about 3 minutes. The reason why we're using these cubes of butter is so that it's easier to distribute versus just taking a clunk of a stick of butter and throwing it in there. You would be sitting there all day. So this just took me about 3 minutes to distribute all of the butter through the flour. And here I am at the halfway point. As you can see, there are still large chunks of butter. So you're going to want to keep going until you can no longer see those large chunks of butter, and it looks something like this, like coarse sand almost. You can still see the butter, but it's just not any obvious chunks. And this is what's going to give us that delicious flakiness to our crust. So here I go. I'm starting with 3/4 cup of ice cold water. That's very important so that we don't melt the butter. Ice cold water, and I'm using the fork to distribute the water slowly, very slowly throughout the flour and butter mixture. I'm not using my hands just yet because I don't want the warmth from my hands to melt the butter. Okay, so you're just gonna keep going, adding that water little by little, and then you'll see slowly the dough start to come together more. To round out the dough, I noticed that it was still a little bit dry, so I went in with another 1/4 cup of that ice cold water. This is bringing us to a cup total that I have used, and you're just going to want to go by eye here. And as soon as you see that dough start to come together like this, you'll know that you're almost ready to go ahead in with your hands and bring the dough together just like this. You'll see that in a few seconds here. So this is not a dough that needs to be kneaded at all. All we're really doing is bringing it together so it's one cohesive dough ball. All right. So here's my 1 slab of dough that you can see on the left-hand side. And I noticed that there was still some flour and butter mixture, so I added in another tablespoon of ice cold water and went ahead, and then you could see that it was finally ready to be incorporated together. And I'm just gonna bring all that dough, not really kneading it. As you can see, the texture that you're looking for here is not sticky. You don't want the dough to be sticking to your hands, but it's also quite moist here. I'm gonna go ahead and finish bringing that dough together. And then I'm gonna pop it into the fridge for 30 minutes and cover it with some plastic wrap while we get our plantains ready. So here I go. I'm using one very, very ripe plantain. I cut it across a diagonal. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen where it says very ripe. That's the kind of plantain that I use. You can also use a medium ripe, like in the middle of the screen here. That works really well as well. So I've got a pot with high sides that I've filled just about 2-3 inches of the way with oil. Once I had it heated to medium-high heat, once I noticed that I stuck my wooden spoon, this is a little trick to see if it's hot enough. I stuck my wooden spoon in there and I saw the bubbles start to form around the wooden spoon, and then I knew it was ready. So I went ahead and put in gently, very gently, all of the pieces of plantain into the oil, and I'm just gonna keep moving it to make sure that the heat is distributing evenly around the plantain so we don't end up with any burnt plantain pieces. So this took about 3 minutes in total for my plantain pieces. I'm just turning them around here as you can see. Once they're done, you're going to want to slowly and carefully pull them out of the oil and let them drain on paper towel, or I'm using a clean kitchen towel. They're off to the side, and we're just going to put those away until we are ready to get to the beef mixture. Here go my plantain, looking all golden brown and delicious. We're gonna put those to the side, let them cool down, and get going on our savory and delicious filling. So I'm starting with one large green onion stalk that I roughly chopped and put in about a half a tablespoon of oil set to medium heat. And I'm going ahead in with green seasoning. This is a green seasoning that I made myself, and I had in my fridge. I used 3 tablespoons total of it. Here's what it looks like. It's basically like a sofrito. You can actually find a sofrito in the grocery store, either in your Hispanic section of your grocery store in a jar. But if you all would like to see a recipe on how I made mine, let me know in the comments down below. You could just put green seasoning, and that way I know I gotta show you all how I did that, because it really added a nice flavor to the beef patties. So I let those raw ingredients saute for just about 3 minutes, just until the raw flavor came out of them. And there I went with the last tablespoon. That brought me to 3 tablespoons total. Then I went in with 1 pound of ground beef. This is an 80% lean, 20% fat version of ground beef, and I'm just gonna go ahead and break it up here. And for the spices, I went in with 1 teaspoon of that Jamaican curry powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of paprika. The reason why I'm putting the spices to the side here is just to let them open up in the heat. I'm going to add a little bit of water because it was looking dry just to the spices, so that the flavors and the rawness of the spices, we can kind of cook that out for a couple minutes. After 2 minutes, I incorporated the spices with the rest of the beef and just went ahead and kept breaking up that beef little by little. I also went in with a teaspoon of dried thyme. Fresh thyme would work really well here too. And then a half a teaspoon of allspice, ground allspice that I'm working in to the mixture as well. Here I go with my toques. This is a Scotch bonnet hot sauce. I'm putting in 2 heaping tablespoons of this because I could not find any fresh Scotch bonnet at my grocery store. I would have used 1 Scotch bonnet without the seeds, but this worked really well for me as well. So I added in a tablespoon of ketchup, and did not get it in the video, but I also added in 1 teaspoon of browning here on the screen that added a nice dark brown color to our patties. And I added a tablespoon of soy sauce, as well as a 1/4 cup of panko breadcrumbs, which is going to help us to keep the moisture in our beef patties. To the beef, I also added a half of a cup of chicken stock. I used a chicken stock powder. Here it is. And I put a teaspoon of this powder into half a cup of water, and that's how I got the chicken stock. But if you have bottled or chicken stock in a carton, that would work really well here too, or even water. So after I added in that stock, I tasted for salt, and I noticed that I needed a little bit more, and I just added some in here. This is the point where the beef is fully cooked, so you're gonna want to make sure you taste for salt. You're gonna, if your beef looks a little bit dry, add in a little bit of stock, because you want it to be not wet, but definitely moist. We're not looking for a dry beef mixture at all. So after my patty dough came out of the fridge, there goes my makeshift plastic wrap there, came out of the fridge after 30 minutes, and I'm getting the fillings ready here. So I have some sliced mozzarella cheese and the plantain. I actually went ahead and cut those in half, and then I have 1 egg with a little bit of water for egg wash, a bowl that I'm using to shape the patties. The bowl that I'm using is actually 5.5 inches in length. So you're gonna wanna find something, any kind of bowl or cup that has that dimension. So here we go. We're rolling out the dough. We're just gonna keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and you'll see the thickness that we'll be looking for in the end. Make sure that your surface is liberally floured so that nothing is sticking, and just keep rolling and rolling. Here is what our dough looked like at the end. That's about the thickness, definitely not too thick, but not too thin. So here I go with that 5.5 inch bowl. I'm just placing it over the dough and using a sharp knife to cut around and get these perfect circles. With the rest of the dough that I'm peeling away here, I'm gonna put it back into the fridge to let it chill while we're working on filling these 4 here. So you're gonna wanna go in with a 1/4 cup of the beef mixture. I'm using 2 strips of the mozzarella cheese, as well as in this one I used 2 slices of the plantain. That would have been 1 plantain cut in half. Then use a brush and take a little bit of your egg wash, put it on the edges. Then you're going to want to take one side of your beef patty dough and fold it over, and I'm using my thumbs to make sure none of the filling has come out. You're going to want to bring both seams so they're together. And then once both seams are lined up and none of the filling is poking out, you're just going to want to take a fork and crimp the edges of your patty just like this, and I'm going to put it onto a cookie sheet while we work on the rest of the patties. So here is those scraps of dough. No, we don't never throw that away. We're just gonna work it back into a dough ball like this, just so that it's cohesive, and roll it right back out. And then we're going to use that same bowl to cut out more patty rounds. Once they're all cut out, you're going to rinse and repeat that same process. Put the scraps of dough back into the fridge to stay cold, and then put a 1/4 cup of beef mixture, mozzarella cheese if you choose to do so, as well as that fried plantain if that's what you like. I added just 1 slice here in. And then you're going to, same as before, use a little bit of egg wash on 1/2 of a circle to help seal us up here. Gently bring your dough over and use your thumbs to make sure none of the stuffing is peeking out. Draw both seams together and gently press to close. This is a very forgiving dough as well. You shouldn't get any tearing at all. And there I go with the fork to seal it closed. And the last step, of course, is going to be to brush all of our patties with that egg wash. That was 1 egg and about a tablespoon of water. Brush those, and my oven I actually had preheated to 375. You're going to put those into the oven for about 20-25 minutes until they come out nice and golden brown, just like this. I served my patties, my delicious steaming hot savory patties with a Colombian ají. This is just a pico de gallo salsa. If you'd like to see this recipe as well, let me know down below.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's so good.
As you can hear there, my boyfriend Nuhubi definitely approved. And I really hope you all love these as well. If you liked this video, subscribe, comment down below, let me know what you thought. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.